Dipping, the podcast where we pull back the pit wall and drop into the heart of motorsports, both on and off track. Today's guest is someone who has been the silent glue that keeps races fair, safe, and efficient. Well, I had a hard time actually, getting the lady in the podcast for a long time. Carol Armstrong, originally from Ireland and now an award winning officiating legend in Australia. She has marshaled in over 45 Formula One Grand Prix and was named the FIA Outstanding Official of the Year in 2024. From behind the scenes moments at the world's biggest races to leading the charge for women in motorsports, Carol's journey is packed with insight, inspiration, and a track record that simply speaks volumes. Let's strip the deep with Carol Armstrong. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's so good to be invited and so good to be chatting with you. I know we've had a long journey ourselves. So yeah, I feel very humble and honored. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, for those who really don't know who this legendary lady is, who is Carol Armstrong and how did you get into the whole motorsport saga?
Yeah. So Irish born and bred, living in Australia. So I call Australia my home at the moment. Who knows? And so I'm dual citizen, which is great. My motorsport journey probably started before I was born. My father, who's still a rally driver, my mum was his navigator, and she stopped navigating when she fell pregnant on me. So we were always by the side of rally stages, night navigations, circuit racing, anything you can think of four wheels. My dad was involved in it, and still to this day he is at the great old age of 75. Still probably thinks he's 50, but that's good. And so we loved it. We didn't know any different. We loved everything about motorsports. Then when I was, I think it was 11 years of age, my birthday is Christmas Eve. My parents always believed in two presents. And this one Christmas, I got a joint birthday Christmas present. I went into the garage, pulled off this sheet, and there was my first racing kart. It was a beautiful constructed kart with an Arrow engine, 100cc. And and then that's when I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And myself, my brother started competing against each other from there on.
I mean, that's the best gift you can ever have.
Yeah, you don't mind a joint present when it's that.
So, how did you first get into the motorsport from the FIA side?
Yeah, so I raced in Ireland with my brother in there's at least 4 racing kart tracks that we did. I did that until I was probably about 17 years of age and had a very bad kart crash. And we've got this saying in Ireland that you've lost your bottle. And what that means is that if you've got the fear, and if you speak to any driver or rider or anything, you don't have fear when you race because you can't. So I really felt like that crash made a significant difference in my life, sadly. And I then just my dad's like, you can't continue, keep trying, maybe it'll come back, maybe you'll win it over. And it didn't. So I carried on being my brother's mechanic and then helping out other junior officials or junior karters. So I was like, Dad, I love motorsport. What am I going to do? I'm not involved. And he said, become an official. I'm like, okay. So started officiating in Ireland across rallycross, 4x4, night navigation, karting, and lots of circuit racing as well. So I did quite a lot in Ireland before I decided to move to Australia. Just on a year working visa, I was supposed to come back. I'm still here now. And I went to Australia and straight away found out about Motorsport Australia, which was known as CAMS then. So everybody who wants to know, every country has an ASN. So they would be the motor racing clubs that would facilitate the racing underneath the FIA umbrella, because they are the people who would make sure that we do everything safely and are the governing body for motorsport across the world. So joined with CAMS, now known as Motorsport Australia, jumped in, and one of my first events was actually the Australian Formula One. So that was amazing. I was like, wow. Jumped into that and had an amazing time. I was a track marshal. And then from there, met loads of like-minded people. They told me about, you've got to do Bathurst. Like, it's Australian racing blood, you know what I mean? It's like, and I was like, of course, no problem. Told my dad, he's like, what? You're doing Bathurst? Oh my God, Carol, this is amazing. So got to work at Bathurst. Went into the pit lane there. That was great. Working in the pit lane and the grid are quite, let's say, top shelf roles. You don't ordinarily get into them. So I said, look, I really want to get the experience across everything. Got the opportunity, went in. I said, I'm going to make myself be the best person in this pit role, in this grid role. And, came in. I'm quite a happy-go-lucky person. So I always like laughing and joking. And from there, then my pit lane and grid experience just snowballed. So from there, then I found out about opportunities across Australia, opportunities then internationally. So with then, my bug just got bigger.
I mean, I wish if Sri Lanka was that simple, because unfortunately for Sri Lanka, the governing body for the federation, the Sri Lankan government, does not have the affiliation from FIA. So it's under a private small club. So there's always issues going around with the ASN, because we basically don't have an ASN, and the people who are having it are not doing anything as well. So there's an issue in Sri Lanka when it comes to motorsports and doing a lot of things internationally. So I try to do a lot of projects in Sri Lanka locally and internationally, so that we can promote it from our end regardless. So there's that. But let's jump into the award that you got, the FIA Outstanding Official of the Year 2024. How did you feel about it?
Oh, and this was such a shock, to be honest with you, because one, I didn't even know this award existed. Okay. And a lot of my fellow colleagues didn't know this award existed as well. And I literally was looking after my godchildren on a Sunday. Normally I'm at a racetrack, but I wasn't. I get a phone call, and it's this lady. She goes, "Hi, Carol. Sorry to ring you on a Sunday. This is Lisa, technical director from Motorsport Australia." I'm like, I'm in trouble. What have I done? Oh my God. The HR tables I felt had turned. And then she turned around and she goes, "We've got some really great news." And I'm like, okay. She goes, "The FIA have contacted us and let us know that you have been chosen as FIA's Outstanding Official of the Year." And I'm like, "What? Where?" She goes, "In the world." I'm like, "No." I says, "The first time I've ever been a number one seed." Yes. I was like, "You're joking." I says, "Me? Why?" And she goes, "Honestly, Carol, this is so exciting for Motorsport Australia, exciting for girls on track, exciting for women in motorsport, exciting for all these things. We've been lucky enough to have one other person receive this award." And she told me his name, Jordan. And I was like, "Oh my God, I know him." I was like, "Wow, that's amazing." She said, "Okay, it's Sunday." I'm like, "Yeah." She goes, "Are you free to fly to Rwanda on Wednesday?" I'm like, "Sure." And she goes, "You are going to Rwanda. FIA are going to fly you to Rwanda to go to the general assemblies, where our president will be, where all the ASN's presidents and vice presidents will be. You'll be surrounded by FIA head honchos, royalty, whatever you want to call them there, and you're going to be fully involved, and and it's going to be amazing. And you're going to go on stage and you're going to be presented this award, and we are so proud." And I'm like, oh my God. I was like, wow. I was like, thank you. I still pinch myself because, it's not that I forget about it, but, other things that happen in life and you just put it aside. And then I was speaking to somebody else about it and my face, I just grinned and I was just like, oh my God, yeah, that still happened to me.
I mean, it's so remarkable, but at the same time, it's very surreal for you when that actually hits. And with time, you actually realize, oh, bloody hell, I did it.
They chose me. I was like, wow.
What's something about being a motorsport official that would completely surprise people watching from the outside?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things that people don't understand, and I like to, when I give this example, I like to back it up really quickly because as a motorsport official marshal, there's lots of terminologies you can call us. Volunteer is that we ordinarily don't get paid, and what I want to back that up with really quickly with is like, because people are like, oh, but there's so much money, and I'm like, okay, maybe you're thinking about Formula One because that's a business. Okay, the FIA is a governing body, you know what I mean? They protect us, they protect the sport, and for you to understand is that we do it for the love. And I try and circle it back to people who are not involved in motorsport, who are involved in football. And I was like, imagine your favorite team. Who's your favorite team? Okay, let's just say, Man City, my favorite team. Of course, I'm going to say that. And you get the opportunity to be a volunteer marshal at their games. How would you feel? And they're like, okay, I get it. So when you have a passion for something and you love something, to have the opportunity to be that close to it, it's non-negotiable. Of course you're going to do it. Now, certain countries, every ASN, I want people to understand, have their own way of looking after their volunteers, marshals, officials. They all have a certain budget that they would have. Some countries have a budget that they can help us pay for accommodation. Some countries, you have to be a European citizen, and they actually give you, pay you a minimum wage to be an official. Some countries give you 2 4-day passes or 3-day passes for the event that you can give to your friends. Some countries, like, they'll feed you, they'll water you. So there's lots of different things that have to go on in the background that people don't understand, And yes, the race would not happen without us. But we, as I say, are a collective team that work together with everybody. So, the role that I would play ordinarily is a pit lane and grid person. But you have to understand, there's somebody at accreditation handing out our accreditation so we can get into in there. There's somebody handing us out our welfare, our water to keep us hydrated. There's a fire person there going to put out a fire like you've seen at many tracks. There's a nurse, there's a doctor. There's all these, people that make up everything that we do as volunteers, marshals, officials across the board. I think that's really invaluable insight for people to understand. So, as much as people think, oh, like, how can I get involved? Honestly, it is open to everybody and anybody across the world. And I probably have cheekily, to my own detriment, have given out my mobile number, my email address, my Instagram to so many people because we are always looking for people. And I say I says, oh, you're a doctor, a nurse. Oh, we love F1. I'm like, oh my God, we could have you join the medical team or CMOs would love you. Or I'm a fire person at the weekend. Oh, do you know what I mean? So I like to give that message off that, not just Formula One, motorsport is for everybody.
That is true. That is very, very true. I mean, for us, so a little bit about me. I'm the person who did the first female motorsport programs in Sri Lanka. And I'm the one who pulled it off, the first inclusive motorsport programs in Sri Lanka. And I'm pulling first STEM project for motorsport in promoting educational side for the Sri Lankan community on the 4th of October as well. So everybody is actually thinking, oh, you know what, you must have plenty of money to do all of these things and all that. I'm like, I wish. Right. I always go and try to pitch these ideas and beg for the pennies so that we can have proper protocols and the projects so that we can develop and promote the industry. Because what I believe is when the industry is growing, the opportunities are going to grow and it automatically will give you monetary funding later on. But you need to make it available for everybody and anyone who's passionate so that it can grow. So you know what? I totally understand it.
Exactly. All my, my money and, my annual leave, my spare time goes on motorsport. But it's like I say, I circle it back to, what your passions are, so I think, if people had the opportunity to maybe, I don't know, be, a stagehand or something at a Taylor Swift concert because they love her, they wouldn't think twice about doing it for nothing either, And I kind of think it's not even just for nothing. Like, I get so much out of it. I do lots of, mentoring. I love bringing new people on board and doing that and seeing the changes, because we have to adapt. There's so much changes that happen in motorsport, and I think what's really great about it is that it's not something that's going to go away anytime too soon. Of course, we do move with the times with, AI and all sorts of things like that. But the human element is very, very important, because we have humans in the cars, and it's a very, very important part. So I think we're very lucky, that we can still adapt, what AI does, but we wouldn't be working from home.
I mean, end of the day, we create AI so that people can use it. So without the human element, as you mentioned, there won't be an existence of AI at all. So it's a balance of both. People do need to understand it. So jumping on to the next question, speaking about fairness and the balance and the pressure in high stakes race environments, what's been one of the toughest calls you've had to make, and how do you balance fairness and pressure in between that?
Yeah, look, that's a really good question, and definitely a multi-tiered question. I think, ordinarily you have to take as much as we love what we do, you have to take your emotion away from, maybe the teams, that you are working to make sure everything's done fairly. So, I might be, I might be a Red Bull fan, I might be a McLaren fan, but I have to take that emotion away from, because if you look at the role that I would play in the pit lane and the grid, is that I would be standing in front of a particular team, a particular driver, and I have to watch everything that the teams and the driver does in that garage, coming out of that garage. Unsafe release is a very popular thing that you would hear, at races as well. And they're the decisions that we note, we take down, and we send up to race control. So I might be looking at my favorite driver and my favorite team, but I would have to still make that honest decision about making the sport still as safe as it is, and making sure that we do the right thing by doing that. They mightn't ordinarily like us, they might see us as judge and jury sometimes, but and the decision doesn't happen as easily as you think. I mean, I had spent some time when I was in Bahrain in the stewards room, and I really thought it was great insight. I went in there and I sat there with three very dedicated, talented people. One was an ex-race driver, one was an ex-steward, an ex-official, and another one was just been a long-term steward. And sitting in there and watching the monitors and watching everything that they do and see, and it's how they make their decisions. And I think a lot of people from the TVs and couches would say, like, oh, I can't believe that decision that was made by the FIA stewards, and how oh my God, why are they making those decisions quick enough, and why did they make that decision? And when I sat there, I have to say, these are probably more fair than I thought, because it even gave me an insight. I sat there and they're like, Carol, so this is what's happening. We've just seen this unsafe release happen. What's your thought process of what you saw there? And I said, that was dangerous. And I said, and that was intentional. You know what I mean? In the sense that they didn't even take the chance to see that there was an oncoming car happening, and all that. And then said, okay, look, what we can do is, and there was another decision that they had to make about, there was one of the mechanics, and the sun was setting. This is how crazy it can be. The sun was setting, and it was in Abu Dhabi. And so when the sun was setting, they're supposed to be always wearing their headgear, because the headgear is going to protect them. But because the sun was setting, if they actually had the visor over it, they would not have been able to see the car, see the driver, and if the driver had any issues, as quickly as they wanted. So they had the visor up. Now, one of my colleagues took down a note, put it to the stewards and said it to them. And the steward turned around and says, look, in this time, it's a very short time between that sunset. And we have to just say, like, you know what? He was doing that for safety for himself, because he had it down, it would have been too dark for him. So, it's those little things that you hear. And of course, they can't make the decisions that quickly. So one of the other thing is that, like, you have to be so quick as well. And, our time is quite long, as you can imagine. We're the first people on track and the last people off track, because we have to be there before anybody comes on. We have to review the track, pit lanes, everything, check out for anything that might be loose because these cars go so fast. And one of the things that actually happened, it was when Valtteri Bottas was racing and was in Abu Dhabi, and he was with Mercedes, and he came into the track or into the pit lane, did a quick thing, went out really quickly, and all of a sudden I saw this piece ricochet off his car and go up above the garage and into the VIP area. I couldn't see what happened, and we were red flagged, and I was like, oh my God, what's happened? Race control basically said to us, oh, there's been an incident. So he came out really quickly. He'd hit off something. A piece of the car had actually gone up and actually had gone into and damaged somebody, and the fibre had actually gone into their shoulder and pierced them. And it was a VIP, it was somebody, one of the sponsors of the event, not that it mattered, everybody's important. So it's those things that can happen. People are like, oh, why these red flag happen? What's happening? So there's lots of things you don't see on the TV. And a lot of times you have to be really quick and really on the ball, but not panic either.
Yeah. It's a tough job. And I've seen so many criticism going on, and then Twitter is going crazy, haywire, definitely, with all the race decisions. And then majority of the time they do think that it's not fair and it's very biased decisions that they take and all that. But at the same time, so since I do more of contents about actually building up the awareness about what Formula One is, what FIA is, and what you guys do and what they do and all that, while doing that, I do my research also, and then I'm also actually learning stuff and realizing, like, my good Lord, that's a lot of work for people to actually do, and it's not easy. And definitely there's going to be mistakes, and you can't actually blame people for that as well, because it's not easy. Like, if it would have been me, it could have been like way worse. I definitely
Yeah.
will be like clueless, and I'll be like a frozen stick, and I'll be like, what the hell am I supposed to do? But I mean, managing it's a lot of pressure. And I think most of the time, majority of the time, it's not fair for us fans to actually blame most of these FIA decisions, because it might be wrong, it might be right, but at the same time, when they are taking those decisions, it's a lot of issues at the same time, and they have to take quick decisions also. So that's why they always say you can actually reclaim these things. You can put into debate, and you can ask for more reviews later on, because they also give you the option of that, because it might be wrong as well. So because of that, so yes.
And that's why, it takes practice and it takes time, and you have to make sure you do pick the right team, but you also don't want to not bring new people in, because we get older and we're evolving, and at the end of the day, can you make a decision that's going to be the safety of you and everybody else around you, and will you be able to jump over that wall in time?
So you have a specialty. You work in the HR system. You bring a rare fusion of HR wisdom and motorsports insight. How do you apply your HR toolkit when working with teams, volunteers, or athletes in the industry?
Yeah. So no, like it's. I think I fell into HR like well after my motorsport, and I just not. I know I'm a good person with people. I know I have this fun, firm, fair. The 3 Fs. That's what I like to kind of say. And I like people to know that you can actually bring HR across into so many different areas in your life. When I was a nanny, I'd be like, I was HR for kids. Don't do that, do that.
Human resources.
People, need communication. They need to be advised how to do things. They need to, get, clear communication, and conflict resolution can go across anything from looking after a child to working in motorsport to working in my actual HR professional role as well. And I think, we're constantly, whether it's FIA, motorsport, Australia, the world. I think we're all making progress with seeing more women in like race control. We had the W Series, now we have F1 Academy. The impact of giving female drivers a platform, I think, is great. It still frustrates me sometimes when there's only women officials, around. I like the mix. I think it's important for us all to be mixed up. Where as much as we're definitely putting the female foot forward, I always, especially with my new officials and people I bring on, and with the girls on track and all that. Like I always think as like I'll be looking at the boys and I'm like, come on, you come too. We're all involved. It's just we want to. The reason why we're focusing a lot more on the females is because we want to make it more even, and I think it's only clever, so and we have definitely seen so much now when I've looked at the FIA with the amount of women that we have in motorsport across the board, which is really good. There's so many female marshals and officials. And I think what's really good is because we ordinarily probably, compliment the men a lot more, probably ground them a lot more, probably make them calm a little bit more. And I just kind of probably think that like ordinarily we're not so fussy, and we still get the job done and we can do multitasking like you can't believe.
I mean, let me ask you this question. So I know that you're a voice for DEI, and as you mentioned, there has to be more women getting involved, but at the same time, it should be a mix. I always tell people it has to be not just women; it has to be a mix of people. And whenever I see somebody's actually celebrating something, saying that, oh, it's the first female race engineer, that's a win for us, and all that. Don't get me wrong, it is a win, but at the same time, it should not be just because she was a woman who did it. It's because she was actually talented in a mix and she got chosen for, so that it balances out. So we always see it's divided by the gender and marketing it into the female side, saying that, oh, the women's thing, the first female, the second female, and all that. But it's not that we can't handle the rest of the gender. We can, and we can thrive among that as well. I mean, I have a best example today. She became the outstanding FIA official among everyone. So it's not just from out of women or men, it's among everyone. So even when we are racing, they're not getting categorized under the gender, they are categorizing under the weight. So it's the same set of rules that applies for ladies here as well. So definitely understand it. But my question to you is, how do we bring more Carol Armstrongs into motorsports, especially women and people from diverse communities?
Yeah, I think that's an absolutely great question. We're definitely on the same journey in the sense of like, girls and boys, men and women, you know what I mean? It's just at the end of the day, it should be celebrating the amazing job they did, and saying, Sarah did a great job, not like this woman did a great job. I totally agree with you because I already, labeling there, so I fully agree with you with that. Look, I think, it's really interesting. Like, I'll give you a really great example of, diversity, minorities, different countries. This year, I've been to 3 different countries I've never been to before in my life. And of course, I went solo. I mean, not everybody can do that, but I think I'm a bit fierce and I love a challenge, So I went to Saudi Arabia, I went to Bahrain, and I went to Austria. 3 different countries, probably, Saudi and Bahrain, quite similar naturally, they're so close to each other. But I really had to say that when I came back from Saudi, I really changed a lot of people's ideas and perspectives because they had, when I think about, living in Australia, first world country, right, and, we kind of think that we're quite across everything and we're, well educated with what we know and we read the news and we look into different ideas and areas. And I changed a lot of people's perspective on Saudi. And I was like, do you know what? They were like, oh my God, you're going there. I'm like, yeah. I am. Yeah. Like I would, go to any other country and they're like, are you not concerned? I'm like, about what? And I told them, I said, I went there without doing really any deep and dive in research because I wanted to go in there with an open mind. And I think that's what people forget they need to do. People read so much on social media. They get their mind altered by so many different things. And look, it's good to do a bit of research. You need to know before you go to a country what you need to expect. But don't be, going in there like, oh my God, be there with an open heart. And I have to say, I was treated so well, and it wasn't because I was outstanding official of the year. Because when I met, I did Formula E. It was my first one I did ever this year. It was amazing. And I went there and they're just like, they were just so gracious. I went into the pit lane scrutineering. I met all the teams and they're like, giving me gifts. They're like, oh, please wear a Saudi Arabia shirt. And I'm like, oh my God, thank you. And, I did this this conference with Wamina, which was amazing, and met Kate Bevan, who's doing More Than Equal, and learned a lot from her too. And I went around and all these pit chiefs, all these chiefs, all these hierarchies, and everybody all sat down with me and they're like, can you tell us? And it was just like what you said. How can we be Carol Armstrong next year, the outstanding official of the year? And my heart melted. I was like, oh my God, you think that much of me? Oh my God, I was just like, I'm actually nearly welling up now because I felt so special. And no disrespect to Australia or any other country, but these countries made me feel so special and put me on a pedestal and asked more questions about what it was like. How did I go about it? What have I done in the past? What have I learned? And I just said to myself, the most important thing I need for you to all understand, and I said this to everybody across the board because it doesn't matter who you are or where you come from. Everybody can be up for that award. I said, think about the journey that you're on as a marshal official, okay? And think about what you've done. And then speak to your chief, okay? You might be you might have been doing flag and track for a long time. You're like, oh, I wonder what pit lane's like. I wonder what scrutineering's like. These people could be studying, we don't know what, in university, and could be amazing engineers. And they should be in scrutineering. Right? And by being in scrutineering, there could be an opportunity for them to actually get a job or an internship, with a team because they would be seen. So I said, speak to your chief and say to him, look, I would love the opportunity to work in a different area. Can this happen? They know you better than anybody. They'll go and have the chats because all the seniors and all the chiefs all sit together and all have a chat and they can say, oh, Sarah has this idea she'd love to come across. And do you know what? She's studying this. I think she'd be so valuable to the team. I said, I can't say communicate enough. It really is, And then for the people who've never been involved in motorsport, I literally am like a walking QR code. Okay. I'm like, ask me any question. I have so many people who are in my inbox on the daily asking me, how do I get involved? How can I be part of applications for the Australian F1? And so I say to them, and I've created so many groups and part of so many groups in Facebook, which is more ideal about, this is opening up because there isn't. The FIA don't have the capacity, and as well as the FIA don't have the knowledge of over. I think it's maybe it's over maybe it's under 200 ASNs that sit across the FIA. The FIA do a huge amount. The ASNs are their own. They are their own facility in what they do with the FIA, and I share lots of information back with the FIA. So this is what Austria do, this is what Saudi do, and they're like, oh, that's amazing. They're never going to know all the intricate details because ordinarily they're making racing safe. They are working on building a huge big workforce on what they want to do for the volunteer official workforce, but that's only going to come with time. They don't have the huge resources that people might think, and there's a lot of things that need to be ticked off, and our president Mohammed, he is doing so much with the teams behind there that you might not realize, and he's a huge advocate for the carbon neutral, looking after volunteers, and the hate speech that's happening, and that's happened to me. It happens to journalists, it happens to everybody, because when you think about it, motorsport isn't away from all the hate that could happen, because when you think about it, somebody might support Red Bull and somebody might support McLaren, and the wins that happen at the weekend, the Red Bull people are going to be like, oh, we don't like McLaren because they won. That's unfortunately that's natural. People have their love and their support for their teams, and there is going to be that, and that's the world we live in. It's about trying to manage that and communicate with people about how that feels when you do say things that are just hurtful and not that way. You can still have a great sporting vibe and excitement about things, but you just need to maybe think about how you manage how that goes. And I think that falls across DEI, communication, looking after everybody, and supporting the teams, and I think rivalry is great, in any sport, it keeps it real.
I mean, end of the day, we need to realize that even if our volunteers are doing their job, so and it's a immense pressure that they go through at the same time as well, and for them to actually choose that volunteership or the job and to be there, we need to actually appreciate that, because they already know that they're going to be criticized regardless the decision, because regardless the decision, one particular team will be winning and the other particular team will be losing. So definitely there's going to be criticism from the losing team, regardless whether it is the right decision or not. So that's the job. that y'all need mental health insurance, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's I hear people share it with me all the time, and I've been working on some little kind of quick notes and things that I've got from the commission here in Australia that I'm going to share on social shortly, because some people, it's like anything, some people don't know where to go to become a motorsport official. Some people don't know where to go to get the support if they're getting some negative feedback or hate against it as well. And at the end of the day, we're all humans. Like, the thing is, like, Max Verstappen, it might be an absolute brilliant driver, and so is Lewis Hamilton. So are all those top 20 people. Believe you and me, no matter where they come, those 20 people have been chosen in the most, elite roles, that are there. But they all are very valuable in what they do. But you know what? They're all human as well. So they're going to feel when they see the negatives and the positives that happen. You see here, I see it with Lando. I've said it to him a couple of times. I'm like, you give yourself such a hard time. I said, like, you're fighting yourself. And he goes, I just wasn't good enough, Carol. I'm like, oh, come on, I said, you're not a robot.
I mean, it's a lot of pressure, and it's not just 20 people. There's always going to be a fighting from an unknown person for that definite driver's seat. So it is about pressure, but always, I always tell people, when people keep on telling me it's just a race that goes around, and I'm like, it's not just a race that goes around, it's more than that. And you can talk about the technology advantages, the innovations, the speed, but end of the day, it's human pressure that goes
Yeah.
under. It's a human that is balancing out all the pressure from the tech side, from the team side, from the general audience, the fans, everything. One human person is actually balancing out that pressure. So that is definitely a next level thing. And I know these drivers have their mental performance coaches for a reason. And even for the workers, they do speak about the mental health for a reason. And
Yeah.
people often forget that part and they jump into criticizing. And over the years, I've changed my mind in how I look at things. I'm a different person rather than who I used to be a couple of years back in the way that I was looking at things. So
Yeah.
people need to evolve, and most of the time they need to be stop being actual adult babies and grow some couple of the balls and try to understand actually what people are doing.
Yeah. What I say is a quick fix for that is, come out one day and work on the track. You
Yeah.
know, in that soaring heat or that crazy rain, and it says, and that's what we're getting. Can you imagine what the drivers are getting? And as well as that, people have to understand as well, there is huge pressure with sponsorship. Huge. That's why the constructors is seen as more of of like I mean, they're seen more of a important win, nearly over a driver win, because if you don't have the sponsors, you're not getting the money. You can't support the driver, the team. I said it's so people do need to understand. Like there's so many different. I call it like it's like an octopus, you know. So it's like there's lots of tentacles out there that need to be fed.
So, speaking of all the balancing stuff and the pressure, let's talk about the burnout moments. Have you ever had moments of burnout or self doubt in your journey, and how did you actually overcome them?
Yeah, look, I think definitely had burnout moments. As a kart racer, I did. There was I was young, but there was a lot of pressure on doing well, and I wanted to impress my dad and my mom and all that. So there is that, and that came at a young age where you know ordinarily most children 10, 11, 12 could have been, I don't know, running around a park, or nowadays maybe playing on a some kind of esport game or something, so that came early. But I think then also by working as a motorsport official as well, the days are long, you know and we all have full-time jobs as well because we need to fund this. So, as I said before, and being in Australia, we would have to travel a lot more distances than any other people to do that. So, I'll give you an example. Like when I do Abu Dhabi, I would finish the day's work that I would do here on the Wednesday. I would get the last flight out Wednesday night, land Thursday morning, and then get myself down to the hotel, shower, change, and then have a debrief with the chiefs on the Thursday night, and then on track Thursday morning. So you can imagine jet lag or anything like that. And then the race would finish on the Sunday, and then I would make my way, and this is what I do every year, make my way up to the airport, and I would jump on the 2 a.m. flight, which would be into Monday morning, get in Monday night and go to work Tuesday morning. So like there's a lot of that. Not that, but it's you build up a huge resistance. You build up a huge I don't know, like strength about what you do. But then you have to be as well, like make sure you're focused on track. As I said, we could get up at like 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, have breakfast, get the track, have the debrief, learn about any changes that might have happened, the regularities, all that kind of thing. Find out who our buddy is, our post, seek shelter as much as possible, hydrate as much as possible, think about our toilet breaks, because when, P1, P2, or P3 are happening and they're long sessions, and you're on the wall, ordinarily you cannot really leave the wall. You might have to, but you really should stay there because you do not want to be crossing over the track like that, the pit lane, should I say. And then you've got the people who are out on the track, the flag marshals, in some places there might not be the cover and the protection, and they don't have the luxury of a toilet block that people would have, so, and how do they have their lunch, and how would we have like a little bit of a break time so we can actually reset, and then someone takes over, then jump back in again. So there's lots of things to think about. But yeah, a lot of us have it down to a fine art, and I do say to anybody new coming on board, just be prepared. I said, but you know what? I said, it's the longevity. You have the support. This is what you do. So the burnout can be real. Come Sunday night, you are absolutely exhausted. There's no doubt about it. But then there's that adrenaline. It's you hear the cars, whether it's WEC or it's a truck or racing, or it's youth racing or supercars or F1 or karting or, the F1 Academy, the adrenaline's there. So there's a huge amount of that gets you going and keeps you going as well. So yeah, the burnout's real, but you do learn to manage it. And yeah.
So, what's next for Carol Armstrong? What's the legacy that you want to leave behind?
Well, I'd like to, I always say this, I just applied for Bathurst 1000, which is a great race that we have here in a fabulous track. And they always say, where do you see yourself in 10 years' time? Or, what can you bring? What I like to say, what I bring is like, I want to do the more encouragement. And when you see my what do I bring? I says I want to keep volunteering and marshalling like I do. I want to be that mentor for young under 18 officials. So we're quite lucky here that we can have under 18 officials join us on the track as long as they're with, somebody who's older and knows what they're doing. So we're quite lucky that I could have a 16-year-old with me and give them that kind of thing. And I think, there's nothing better to think that we can bring our young crew out of their bedrooms, their houses, their TVs, get them out in the fresh air, get them learning something, and because Drive Survive has been out there, there's so many people with so much passion about motorsport. I'm like, come out, see what it's about, and I always make it as fun as possible because I want them to return. I want somebody's going to have to take our places. We're not forever. And so the girls on track, which is great. I like what's happening in that field. That's great. As I said, I like to do the whole mentoring for young boys and girls, men and women to come on. And I've had a lot of people come on who are retired or got into Drive Survive and they're in their 40s or 50s, and I've got them to come on board and shadow them. And so it's been a great mix of people. So I'd like to continue doing that. I'd like to do a lot more, maybe give up my opportunity in pit lane and grid and give it to other people. I want to maybe get back into scrutineering a little bit more. I love that. And that's an ever evolving, changing field. And it's like deep. It's, quite technical. I'd like to maybe have an opportunity to be in race control a little bit more. I love doing what I did in stewarding. I'm already looking at a stewarding course. Motorsport Australia have lots of training options that we can do to grow what we want in the skills that we'd like. I'd like to think that maybe somebody that I've mentored and, shadowed could see them getting the award that I won. Look, I think a paid role in motorsport would make me very happy. I think to maybe live that dream on, in a full-time role would be brilliant. And, that may happen. If it doesn't, I'm going to keep trying, so I'd love for people to, just reach out and just say, ask me any question and how I can help them and see this family grow, I really, that's what I'd like.
Listen, your heart is very big, and those
Oh.
that does not come very easily and not to every single person. So it's very rare. Just like the work that you do is very rare, your heart is also very rare. So I'm pretty sure that you can achieve whatever you set in your mind. And I would love to see that growth. And hopefully one day, I would love to see you actually being mentoring actually, and giving out mentorships even for countries like ours and for the kids in these countries also. That would be remarkable. But here's the rapid fire questions for you now. So the last five questions are like the fun ones. So I'm going to ask you five questions, which can be very fun and very weird and very, how do I say it? It's not very traditional. So the first question for you: do you love pizza?
Sorry, say I lost you there. Do you love?
Pizza.
I love pizza.
Then how do you feel about pineapple on pizza?
Oh, my Italian friends will be like, girl, no. Do you know what? I don't mind pineapple on pizza. I really don't. But I tell you, the Australians love it. I'm sure you're very well aware of that. But I tell you, any Italian will be like, no, no, no. And why would you have any more than 4 or 5 toppings on a pizza? My favorite pizza, I will tell you really quickly, is the quattro formaggi with gamberi. I love the 4 cheeses with prawns. That's my pizza. That will come to my heart. If you want me to, do anything, give me a quattro formaggi prawns.
That's the get to Carol Armstrong's heart. We have given. So if you were to name a sandwich after your motorsport journey, What would you call it, and what would be in it?
Sorry, if I had to name a sandwich after myself and my motorsport life and everything, what would be in it and what would I name it?
Yes.
Oh my God, I know straight away. Oh my God, I can't believe this. This is great. Okay, so fun fact, my name is Carol, nickname Christmas Carol because I was born Christmas Eve. Okay. So my favorite dinner, if funny you believe, is a traditional turkey roast dinner. I love it. I absolutely love it. No matter what year time I go back home to Ireland, my mum makes me Christmas dinner. Okay. I'm not a fan of ham, but that's all right. So my sandwich would be definitely beautiful turkey, pork and sage stuffing, roasted sliced potato and gravy, salt, pepper, on what we call in Ireland is like doorstep bread. When I mean doorstep, the loaf is like thick, right? On that. And that would be it. And I would call it Christmas Carol sandwich.
That's the perfect name. Okay.
Not quite motorsporty. It's fun fueled.
Yeah, it's actually filled with fuel and protein. So the third question, one word to describe the feeling crossing the finish line as an official.
Wow. It would be wow. Or an expression of a word. Yeah, I mean, there's probably some words I could say, but I won't use it.
So, okay, the fourth one. If you could marshal any historic race from the past, which would it be?
Well, I think I've got a very, very good friend. I call her my racing sister, Julia. She's Hungarian and she lives in Austria. She has raved and raved and raved to me about Le Mans. And I have never done a Le Mans. She's just done Le Mans and then she backed it up after the Austrian Grand Prix and did Le Mans Classic. And the pictures that she sent me, I was like, wow. And I think also it circles back a little bit to my dad. So my dad, when he got older, decided to do classic car racing. And another fun fact, my dad won the classic Monte Carlo rally and was the first Irish duo to win it
That's
ever.
amazing.
And asked me to fly to drive the rally car home, and I did. So that was a fun fact. That was amazing. So I flew to Nice and then to Monte Carlo and drove my dad's rally car back from Monte Carlo all the way through France, Spain, and England, Wales, and back to Ireland. So that was fun. I would definitely, it would be a Monte Carlo historic, or I have to give two, I'm sorry. It would be a Le Mans classic, definitely. Those two, I think, just hold so much history. And I think if you ask anybody who likes motorsport, maybe not so much the Drive Survive people who've jumped in, but they're learning, believe you me. I think it would be a Le Mans and a Monte Carlo, because if you think about it and you look back, and I tell anybody, to have a look back at the Le Mans Classics and the Monte Carlo, those cars, those drivers, what they did and how the challenges they came up with and the teams they didn't have. I tell you, it would just be, you were thinking like, wow, they were something else. They were real athletes as well. I mean, of course, we've got our motorsport gurus and race drivers are athletes, but what they did back then, something else, really something else.
And to be honest, even when we talk about Formula One, we always talk about the technology and everything, but we need to remember why it became Formula One, and it was for a reason. I mean, the mechanical era that they had, that was phenomenal. It was basically based on driver skill, and that was remarkable. And those days, they had to drill through the floors to make the car weightless and all that. It's totally different without that tech that we have right now. I'm not saying that it's easy for the drivers nowadays. I mean, there are thousands of buttons for them to actually look at and then drive
Yeah.
also. not easy. But at
You don't get-
mechanically, the driver skill mattered a lot during those golden eras, and that's why we actually always crave those races. And
Yeah,
whenever things are changing, even in F1, we always keep, like, the major fans like ourselves, you always like keep on saying, why is this happening like that? I would prefer the old version and all that, because the people crave those things, right? So totally, I mean, Le Mans is like a dream race, even for a fan just to go and watch it. So I understand that reason as well. Okay, are
yeah,
you ready for the last question, lady?
yeah.
Your ultimate race day snack: sweet, salty, or something totally unexpected. What is it?
Ooh, God. I'm normally a savory girl. I'll be very honest with you. I'm definitely more of a savory girl. But I think, yeah, so this is very important because a lot of the time we have to pack our own lunches sometimes, so ordinarily it has to be something that's going to survive earth, wind, and fire. It's going to have to be something that's nourishing. And so I think ordinarily what I remember myself and Julia when we were going to Vienna, it was we had like vacuum packed chicken and oranges and kiwi fruit and sweets. So I have to say, like, I think mine, it was like the quick fix for me is probably like a really spicy, like a potato chip. I love that. I have to say, and sandwich. I can make a crisp sandwich, and that'll keep me going, and it feels just so good and bold. And then the sweet thing, if I had a choice, it would be my favorite sweet. And this is the other thing you'll get me over, apart from my quattro formaggi and prawn, is carrot cake. Yeah,
Ooh, that is so good. Oh my God. That is like so good.
there
I
you
mean,
go.
if you get that correctly, that is like, that's gonna definitely hit the sweet spot. But if you miss out that recipe, that's a disaster.
Yeah, that's it. It can't be dry, and it has to have loads of icing.
Yeah. The cream cheese is very important.
Yeah.
Well, listen, thank you so much for joining us. That wraps our latest lap on George's trip in the dipping. A massive thank you to you, Carol, for joining us and sharing your incredible path from grassroots karting in Ireland to the officialdom across the world's most iconic races. I mean, we do have the outstanding lady here from FIA itself. So thank you so much for joining. But before you go, do let us know your social handles so anybody who is listening can actually follow your journey.
Yeah, yes. So my social, yeah, it's I had to change it. It's a while ago when I won the award, but it pretty much is very simple. So there's Carol Armstrong, and then there's Carol Ann Armstrong, Ann with an E. Yeah, you'll find that they're also, then I'm on LinkedIn, and it's my name as well. It's Carol Ann Armstrong. I sadly don't have. I'm on Instagram, Facebook. I don't have TikTok, and I don't have. X either. So there are things I'm going to work on. It's just trying to manage all of those and keep valid and up to date can be full on. So but yeah, absolutely. And I'll gladly, after this, I'll actually share you my actual copy handles if you want to have them, so they're as accurate as possible. If anybody wants to reach out and get any advice or have a chat or a discussion, I would love to do that and encourage and help and do more. And yeah, very excited I've just hit 51 F1s now. And I'm looking forward to the other F1s that I've got coming up this year too.
Thank you so much. And if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share with someone who dreams of hearing the checkered flag from the other side of the fence. Until next time, stay passionate, stay vigilant, and keep stripping the dip. Thank you so much for joining us.